Okay, so when I was like halfway done making this video about Family Guy leaving syndication, I found out that out of seemingly nowhere, Family Guy will be joining Comedy Central's lineup. For a second, I thought I was tripping or dreaming, until I realized it was true. Family Guy will in fact be joining Comedy Central's US lineup on September 2nd for an all-day Labor Day marathon. After that, it will air during the primetime hours every day. This is the first time ever Family Guy has aired on a Paramount or Viacom-owned network, not counting the CW, which is also jointly owned by Warner Bros. Discovery. It's ironic that it will be airing on the same network behind South Park, which has criticized and ripped on Family Guy in the past, more specifically the Cartoon Wars episode, for its bad characterization, poor joke execution, constant cutaways, and the humor not being related to the plot. I don't think I feel negative nor positive about this happening, because of how degraded Comedy Central's schedule has been lately, and I expect the worst from them anyways. Besides, Family Guy already airs all the time, so what difference does it truly make? The show will continue to air on FX, FXX, and Freeform, but will still be leaving syndication on August 18th. I'd also like to point out that Family Guy previously aired on Comedy Central in European countries such as Germany and Romania. It's not completely out of place on Comedy Central, since they've aired Futurama, The Cleveland Show, and King of the Hill, which are all Fox cartoons. Getting the rights must have cost Paramount a fortune, especially since Disney is very stubborn and strict when it comes to licensing out their shows. It must have taken a lot of negotiations and convincing them to get on board, because you may already know how much MeTV Toon struggled with trying to convince Disney, and they failed. Also, Family Guy making its debut on Comedy Central may be the reason it's leaving syndication in the first place. It's a guaranteed success for Comedy Central, because it's Family Guy, you can't go wrong. The only problem is that they're going to have to compete with 4 other channels already airing the show, unless they all change the time to air reruns. So it may not even work out due to oversaturation. They should do something unlike other networks, such as airing the banned episode, Partial Terms of Endearment. Also, they better not crop it to 16:9. Either way, this really took me by surprise and is rather bizarre. So now, let's get into the syndication part of the video. Hi guys, Artie here, and today is a sad day for broadcast television. Family Guy is leaving broadcast syndication on channels such as the CW, My Network TV, and some independent stations such as The U on August 18th, followed by Bob's Burgers on September 1st, leaving The Simpsons as the last Fox cartoon, and the only cartoon for that matter, airing in syndication. It also happens to be around 5 years after Disney's acquisition of Fox was finalized. I'm inferring that after the merger went through, Disney gave local channels a 5-year window to keep them. This wouldn't be the first time, as King of the Hill, Futurama, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show left syndication in March 2019. Basically, collateral damage resulting from Disney buying out Fox, and wanting to push those shows on streaming instead. Family Guy has been airing in syndication since around 2007, and I believe Bob's Burgers has been in syndication since 2015, so it is truly the end of an era. The problem is that Disney prioritizes streaming too much. Family Guy reruns will still air on FX, FXX, and Freeform, and Bob's Burgers on FXX and Adult Swim, making the two series exclusive to cable and streaming. These two shows have hundreds of episodes, and are still currently running with new episodes. So why pull them from syndication? The answer to that is Disney. They are notoriously stingy when it comes to licensing out their shows, even to ones they had no involvement in the production of and were acquisitions. The only third-party channel they're still licensing out to is Adult Swim, and I honestly don't know why. If I had to guess, Disney is making bank from the licensing fees, and it's worth it for Adult Swim, since Bob's Burgers and American Dad usually get the highest ratings and consistent time slots. Not to mention, they've also had a years-long relationship. The departure of Family Guy and Bob's Burgers is only the tip of the iceberg. The full list of shows leaving syndication include Mom, The King of Queens, The Good Doctor, SEAL Team, Major Crimes, Personal Injury Court, Jerry Springer, paternity court, and couples court with the Cutlers. I did not expect Jerry Springer to be leaving, even though I never liked it. I have to admit, it was an integral part of daytime television. Most of the content on over-the-air TV is geared towards baby boomers and older skewing Gen X. There is not much out there for young people other than MeTV Toons and obviously PBS Kids, also maybe TBD. Seems like the only channel geared towards millennials and Gen Z. The majority of channels over the air are crime shows, classic television shows, religious, and surprisingly shopping channels, which are somehow still around even though online shopping is more convenient and prevalent than teleshopping, and best of all, there's actual physical stores you can visit and shop at. Going back to the point I made about Disney wanting to primarily focus on streaming, I don't like how every media company these days is putting all their eggs into one basket, into only the streaming market, and leaving behind television, rather than having the two mediums coexist. I don't see streaming as the replacement to television, it's building on top of that, and providing instant video-on-demand access to all the shows and movies you can think of. Unfortunately, the media conglomerates don't see it this way. What's the point of streaming if you're not going to put all your content on there and only half of it? For crying out loud, HBO Max is missing more than half of Cartoon Network's library. I say this too often, but not having all your content, especially fan favorites, readily available is only going to encourage piracy. Remember back when times were simpler and there were only 2 streaming services? Apparently, every media conglomerate needs their own streaming service these days, because they're too stingy and prideful to license out their content to other platforms. No wonder all of them are going into debt. Warner Bros. Discovery realized that they needed to get even with their losses, so they started licensing out their shows to other places, such as Tubi and MeTV Toons. The funny thing is that streaming services, in addition to subscription plans such as YouTube Premium, are dirt cheap in developing countries. Meanwhile, they're overpriced as hell in America. What gives? I also want to mention pay TV is still going strong in other parts of the world, such as Southeast Asia. Cultural differences and the economy definitely play a factor. As much flack as I give Paramount, at least they, for the most part, cross-promote their content and air the made-for-streaming shows and movies on linear TV at a later date, like we saw with the Patrick Star Show and the Beavis and Butthead revival. Because as you may know, not everybody has Paramount Plus and vice versa. Meanwhile, with Warner Bros., they are horrified at the thought of taking risks, and will strictly make their content streaming only, especially after the WBD merger. I did not want to see Family Guy and Bob's Burgers leave syndication, especially since the cord-cutting movement is growing stronger every year, and over-the-air television has been making a comeback recently. Before working on the video, I had no idea American Dad was no longer syndicated, even though it's still running. To be fair, the syndicated versions of these shows are inferior to the original, because many scenes are cut out due to time constraints to fit commercials, and many good jokes are censored, so they can air it before watershed hours. Even though it's 2024 and society has gone a long way since the 1960s, the FCC is still overly strict when it comes to broadcast regulations and censorship. I don't think the television medium will ever truly die, but without a doubt, cable is on its way out. The combination of the outrageous cost and constant price hikes, repetitive TV schedules, and superior and cheaper options deter subscribers and their bleeding numbers faster each year. I've talked about the death of cable and TV with a few people, but one person said that the cycle will go full circle and eventually TV will gain traction again in a few decades, and they may very well be right. Anyways, I grew up watching the syndicated version of Family Guy since 2008, so it's sad to see it go, just like how the show left Adult Swim back in 2021. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, notify, and check out other videos on the channel. You may like them. Do you think television will ever truly die? Let me know in the comments.